It's October 23rd, 2023. Um, I'm looking at myself. I can see like my under my chin, just how swollen my glands are. I feel I'm having trouble walking today. Last night, um, well, let's put it this way. I was in the food store, just normal shifts. Um, I was I felt a little bit of the almost like static electricity, but like it also sometimes feels like a feather. And again, I told someone at the Red Cross Church that I'm not really sure, like, where does that level of phone call go in? Because there's concerns about this is my local one and only, like, first of all, it's my employment, it's my food store, it's the only source of sustenance um, that like major form for the community. um, but I'm feeling this medical micro, like laboratory quality, that but I don't know, I don't have the ability to swab myself um, and have like a laboratory like partner at the moment. But and I don't know if it's the clientele that's walking in on from the streets or flying in from some outside destination with like a visa or a passport of some sort and bringing with them and carrying this possible contagion, or if it's something that arrived via pallet that was delivered to the store. I don't have access to those answers. I don't know what the chain of command is on that or who to whom. Again, um, I mean, there's things I do know, like Jamie Dimon is the CEO in America, in here within this General George, the only general I've ever known, with the pyramid and the bird, and then Hamilton on the 10 with the US Treasury and this monetary system. Um, Jamie Dimon is the CEO of a financial institution that is my ex-employer, Chase, who I mean, it, although the pay scale for what I needed was not sufficient for the money mechanics of how New York is being run. I have nothing negative to say necessarily, but again, I have series of licenses within the financial communities. I had my Series 7, my 66, my 65, my 63. I then had a Series 6 at one point. And now, when I went in order to investigate about opening a bank account for myself, uh, I went to all the other places. And then, of course, my occupational training is Chase. Um, Before this, like 2008, I'm sorry, 2018, there was some big change. And now it looks like, I don't know what the Labor Party lobby is doing, and the SEC and banking. But I asked the representative that, again, like, I don't know where designated survivorship rights that one is born with and inalienable rights come into play. And I don't know where clandestine services are to even ask that level of question, because so much has been withheld from my ability to attain personnel, and to know who the reps are that have this level of training in order to have a conversation with. Um, so it makes it very difficult um, in the field. So, and again, and I don't know if that's part of somebody else's strategy. Yesterday, the 7-Eleven um, brand had DeSantis on the door in a 718 area code, but they've broken the telephone company. It's now one billing system. It's no longer local, regional, long distance, and international carriers. That seems problematic for national security, which I'm sure the more than capable representatives at clandestine services are fully aware of. I just don't know how to voice my concerns, of how I'm being crushed at the bottom under all of these years and decades of bad, like, okay, so on the Chase business card, which I have, for reference, which says now CIA on the back of it, and it says specifically that they are not part of federal agency. Um, which is weird because they're an FDIC. So, like, I don't know how they're getting away with that in legalese, but I get that if they have to fund something, they have to whatever and whatever, whatever, whatever. Um, so I'm just cautious. They changed their licensing for the personal bankers who now have an MOD, and instead of just a PB, they have an SBS and an MOD and a CIA on the back of their cards. Their occupation that's sitting there through, I can only assume, the Labor Party put them in to the lobby of the bank. I don't know how else they would have gotten there. Um, I asked her, she's like, well, that's because I have to be licensed. And I'm like, right, yeah, no, I get that. I was like, and what license is it exactly that you hold? And she said, the Series 6 was broken into something called an SIE. And I'm like, oh, wow. So, like, SI, like, again, I was senior IA, according to woodworking and whittling at camp. So I am going to go with the man and the adjudicator at the side of the pool who knew, at spot inspections of what vocabulary I was being taught and I wasn't. Just so, one big brother knows. I just need whatever. There's that. And so now I'm like, because SI is like, you mean like, but I can't say it, like special interest, because it's just what everyone seems to be wearing these days. Um, and so I'm concerned with that. That Series 6 is no longer Series 6. Um, I just had a conversation with somebody from the local, they call it a JHS, not an MS for some reason. The school that my son is in for some reason, and which I haven't been able to crypt out what the purpose of that is at the moment. Um, and he is there, and she tells me that they're going all electronic. And so, I mean, of course, now I'm pissed, and she's nasty. And again, I don't know if that's just her bedside manner, but it's just really irritating when I am whatever I am, and having an issue, like multiple issues. And there's people with just inalienable rights, and then there's people with designated survivorship and inalienable rights. And there's a real break in the consciousness of whatever and whatever's going on. And I'm monitoring a whole lot of different specialties that I have. Um, so she tells me that they're going paperless completely. Like, report cards are no longer going to be sent home. I have to go into this portal system. I'm like, I don't even have a computer. I was like, I don't have a computer. So now you're discriminating against people without computers. Like, there's no special exception that I can get a paper calendar and a paper report card. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous that everything. And then she's annoyed at me for not being grateful for everybody going paperless. And I'm like, yeah, again, I'm not part of your special interest, like how everybody gets fed and paid. Um, so that happened. then I'm speaking to somebody who said he's a US service member, but again, plain clothes in the streets. He mentioned it a long time ago. So I don't really, again, I keep I keep closed mouth, except when I had yesterday, I was in on surveillance camera at the local new job, um, with my payroll on file. I know corporate security watches. In fact, I had an NYPD person come show me his badge and say that he works sometimes on the camera crew. So that just was validation again in the store while I was in whatever. So thank you to him for making an on scene, like, recognition that I'm not crazy. I know he exists. He knows he exists. We're post 9/11. There's some teamwork that has to go into play, and I don't really know how to address some really dangerous whatever. So, um, anyhow, so last night I'm there, and there's this young kid, which again, like, I don't like getting people in trouble, but, and I said this to my neighbor, who I saw on the streets, and I said, listen, I said, what, I don't know what to do. I was like, I said, I've been the victim of just being out, like, in my, like, young years when, like, I was beautiful and, like, it was the season of fraternity and whatever frat houses do. I was like, and I got hit with a needle and blacked out. I was like, and it happened more times than I'd like to acknowledge. I've also been hit somehow, and then I blacked out, um, and hit with a substance, but I black out, and then there's a car ride, and then I wake up somewhere, and I don't know how I got there, and then whatever happens in my private file. But I was like, so I don't know who has access to that level of information, through the network, and now that everything's whatever, I was like, but last night, here I am just doing like this small cashier job and trying to make some form of compensation so I can try to, take care of myself and go on a liquid diet. But, um, there's this person, and he has this thing, like, he's young, he's like my son, one of my son's ages, like in his 20s, and he comes over, and like his thing is like he just wants to hit me with stickers from behind, and I'm like, right, and I'm like, again, is this like sensitivity training, like, because I'm just like, am I, and then in my head I'm like, psychology wise, I'm like, all right, is this like, do I see him as a perceived enemy breaching my personal space and hitting me with stickers in targeted zones to see what my reflexes are and if I can even feel anything? And is that a prelude set up on camera for some other operation that they might be doing that I'm not aware of? I was like, or is this kid just really like that playful, and does he know that I've had these sensitive things happen in real life? Like, again, it's really hard, um having to monitor like the food and the location and the microbiotics, and then the electrostatic portion of when these triggered microbiotics like click on and then go into like a motile, and is it, a biogenic field that they're like, because I have an RH sensitivity that most of the population around here don't have or carry genetically. Is it targeted directly to me? Like, and again, like all these things swirl in my head. And then I've got this kid coming up to me trying to put stickers on me like a dartboard, like with from behind. And I'm just like, do I see this as a threat, a personal threat? Like, is this just some punk kid? Like, I mean, because he comes off like he's real nice. And again, new job. I don't want to like make enemies. I mean, I don't want to work in that kind of environment, but here we are at like Stuff is real. Um, so I mentioned it to Kevin, and I'm just like, I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know what to think of it. I was like, but I find it just strange. And I know I'm not the only one. Like, I know he did it like playfully to other people, but then again, I mean, I've been through a frat season where they broke our mailboxes, and I disappeared after school and woke up on someone's front lawn. I have no idea how. Um, and a whole other series of what now in hindsight looks like tests. Um, but it happened, and I don't even know. They spoke English very well. So are they actors from Department of Homeland Security, like interior, or are they international actors that just speak and are trained very well? Are they part-time residents? Again, like, I mean, the vocabulary fails me at the level of questions that I have, and not knowing how to self defend in any of this situation. Um, and it seems so innocent, just coming up behind a woman and putting like stickers on her back. But after being a target of this serious and multiple times seriousness, and seeing over the last few decades what has made landfall, and knowing that there is something that's called a special interest group, not knowing who's in charge of it, not knowing who polices over that stuff. Um, I also mentioned different, uh, one of the moms at the church. um, I said, you know, like, who do you, what would you suggest? She said, what about like a senator or something? And I was like, yeah, you know, funny enough, found a senator, got their business card, was talking to them, asking them like where to report certain things. And she said that inside the local area, 75%, she was an outgoing senator. 75% of the district she had never met. And it had been it had been like a while that she didn't even know any of them. And they were waiting for the new senator to come in, which was January. And I'm like, but again, I'm not getting warnings that the whole neighborhood, 75% of the demographics is changing. Who are these persons? Why is there no alert system or even communications with the long term residents that are here? Why is all of this going on in some quiet, like, operation of some sort? I mean, like, who's in charge of these things? So it's a real problem. It's a real concern, because if there's like first class citizen, second class citizen, which I can't confirm or deny, I mean, you've got people with designated survivorship concerns and inalienable right concerns, and then you've got the others with just inalienable right concerns, and they bring with them stuff and abuse that went on wherever. I mean, like, again, I don't I just don't know at this point. um but there's a lot of alarming things. um and I don't work in a job where email is used. I have no need for email. um and so, having putting all of my son's educational stuff into this online platform for me does not work. And with the chemistry that, I mean, again, in my toxology reports, that I can't even really read because I don't have the metrics for it, because the doctors keep it at like their learning institution grade and level, at their pay grade. um and so I can't even ascertain my own results. Like, I can smell off my own body this high amount of nitrogen and ammonia smelling at some points, but I don't know chemistry wise, is that a chemical attack? Is that something to do with one of the oils? Is it like the sulfur that I was smelling, is that what they consider white phosphorus? Is that why my lips were turning white? Again, like I don't even know how to track my own level of health and progress. All I know is Tia Frio 1975 looks swollen. I look swollen. Lynn looks swollen. Um, and last night, after the kid put all the stickers on me, I started having a really hard time. And it could have been coincidental, or it could have been some of the, I mean, like last night, as I was on the register and I dealt with a lot of um, customers. I mean, what I do, because I can't put my hands to my face, is I try to do this to put my glasses up, but then there's this when there's whatever they brought in with them or whatever's on whatever they're purchasing, and it feels like that electrostatic movement of in a microbiome that my visual can't pick up, but my body sensory does. And so I came home last night and my feet were like pretty much purple. They looked, tops and bottoms, my toes were in like the purple range, and I was having such extreme sacral pressure and pain. There was nothing in my nightly movement of being on the register that would warrant that level of sacral pain, and my legs to feel almost swollen and for my toes to start turning purple. Like the rest of the week, it I didn't have those effects. But whatever was brought in to where my personal space and whatever was going on, it was a real problem for me. And my physiology showed that. Um, I wound up going to bed. I wound up oversleeping this morning. Normally I'm up at 5. I could barely pull myself awake at 7. So I'm having these biological and physical ailments and attacks on top of, and I don't know who or what, but I know that there's wars going on outside of the continental United States. And then I know that there's these special interest groups, and then there's special ops. I mean, like, I've heard these words. How they all work in a theater sense, I'm not quite sure. But my my senses and my alerts are heightened. And then, of course, I have this kid on this register, and I'm like, I don't know why he's coming and stickering me. And I don't know how to handle that, quite frankly, because I don't have clandestine services to run to for shelter and fraternity and paternity and camaraderie and any of that. I'm completely isolated, and I feel like I'm being picked on and victimized, and it is it's a real problem. But it's been this ongoing problem since I was a teenager, right before I started having children. Um, and it's only over the decades gotten worse. And I don't know whose agenda item this is to like purposely abuse the designated survivorship children that do have inalienable rights. Um, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.